Well, Paul actually
But
did
this
it.
is
I didn't have
confusing
time.
because of the way
Looks
it's,
great.
She
it
did
drops
great.
down.
Right, well, that's.
At some point, they must have filled that in.
Cool. This. That's all of that. That's this one.
Doug, I tried to call you, but unfortunately, it didn't get through. I don't
Oh.
know. And then one time it just rang and rang and rang, so I don't know.
Oh, I was out for a while.
Hopefully we can answer it today.
So,
Yeah, comparing those two is confusing.
She said that she would. Heather,
We have a few ones.
and then these are just mock
Eric will not.
frames, right? And that's all
Eric will not
cement.
be here.
I can understand.
I don't know that term, but, oh.
Did you have another one? Oh, it has the whole corner there. Look at that.
Should I make copies?
You can. I think it's really similar to that one, but it just has,
Really easier to see. That-
it is, yeah, that one's. a little
Those
bit-
two are kind of hard to compare.
Do you want to? Just to, it
How they,
might be nice for them to have. It's the whole street view.
it's not a real good
Shows the whole
shot,
street
but
light.
it's usually
You
the
can
full
go here,
corner.
right?
The thing that is nice about it, you can, all of the side street detail is still there until you get to where they tacked on that new stuff.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Something that needs to be taken off.
Mhm.
I know better than to say anything, but at 4 o'clock, we have a forum.
She's making copies, so can we wait? till-
Making coffee? I'll have a,
Well,
Copies.
copies
oh,
of another historic photo.
I was gonna forgive her if she's making coffee.
Sorry, Bob.
Main Street is gonna make this application also.
Mm-hmm.
Property owners, I'm a little far out. What happens to property owners? They don't have to appear, they don't,
Don, is that correct? Isn't that too few?
Oh,
And sir, don't move the chairs.
Okay. I'll move the chair.
well, this is
This
the picture
morning,
I've been looking
we
for,
were
then.
chairs.
Oh, gotcha.
See what, I can't even think of the name of that street.
There it is, gotcha. Side street.
Lovely?
Thank you.
Is it lovely?
I presume we have it here somewhere.
Possibly. Okay, Bob, whenever you're ready, I think Paula is
Doesn't say.
just about there. She's ready.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Enjoying the photography, but we'll get started again. The Historic Landmark Commission for the City of the Dells will call this, I'm calling this meeting to order, and I would ask for a roll call.
Sandra Bissett,
Here,
Dennis Davis,
Here.
Robert McNary,
Here,
Doug Leash,
here,
Eric Gleason is absent, Heather Kirby is absent, and Timothy McLaughlin is absent.
we do have a quorum.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to establish. If you'll all arise, we will have the pledge of allegiance, and Sandy's gonna lead. I get flustered.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. agenda has been passed. Is there anyone that needs more time to study it or and wants to make a change in the agenda? If not, I would appreciate if someone make a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as listed.
I second the motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda has been passed. Now we'll go to the minutes of our July 25th meeting, which must have been awful long because I got a lot of paper in front of me.
It was.
You were running the blanks.
I couldn't extend. Is there anyone that would like to enter anything to this as far as corrections or additions?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as they've been presented to us.
I'll second that.
All in favor say
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, the agenda has been passed, and the minutes have been passed. Now we are to the point where, could be, we're looking for public comments of anything that does not go under, is not on the agenda for the day. Anyone can arise and be recognized and tell us a story or tell us a concern. I'm not seeing anybody, so we will move on to the next item. The next item is the public hearing, and the public hearing requires me to do a lot of reading, so bear with me, please. Now is the time specified for the Historic Landmark Commission to conduct a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the following matter. And this is an application 162-18 from the Dells Main Street. And it covers the historic building McHale's Grocery, commonly known as the Singer Store, located at 422 East 2nd Street. And it is inside of the Dells Commercial Historic District. The substantial criteria upon which the Historical Landmarks Commission will base their decision in this manner are contained in the city's comprehensive plan and land use and development ordinance. A public hearing is required by law and certain rules apply. First and foremost, you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak and present testimony. When recognized by the chair, please proceed to the microphone and state your name and mailing address for the record. The hearing is required by law to be tape recorded. Generally, the public hearing procedure is as follows. At this point, I'm asking if anyone in the audience has a desire to challenge the qualification of any of the commission members. I do, but they don't count on that, okay. We will open the public hearing with a staff report. The purpose of this staff report at this point is to further identify the applicable criteria of the case being considered and to provide background information about the case. After the staff report, there will be a testimony from the proponents, those persons in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony from the opponents, those not in favor of the application. And then in red ink, next there will be testimony from anyone who wishes to offer testimony or ask questions about this application. Then to honor the right of rebuttal, we will again hear from those in favor of the application. To expedite the hearing, the commission members may add questions of the persons as they testify. When this process has been concluded, we will close the public testimony portion of the hearing. During the hearing, some important standards apply. First of all, those who testify must hold their testimony to the decision criteria. As in all land use hearings, there are a complete set of rules, procedures, and criteria we must follow. Second, failure to register an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and the parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Third, the failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to the proposed condition of approval with details specified enough to allow the city to respond to these issues precludes, an action of damages in the circuit court. Fourth, prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If such a request is made, the law states that the commission must grant the request by either continuing the hearing at a time and a date at least 7 days from the date of the initial hearing, or the record must be kept open for that period for at least 7 days. Now, has anyone got any questions about what I tried to read? If not, I'll turn the page. Now, here's the word I always love. Are any members of the commission in a what contact?
Ex parte.
Ex parte.
Ex parte contact, conflict of interest or bias that would not allow them to register an impartial decision on this matter? Hearing none, we will go on down to the next. Anyone in the audience wish again to challenge the qualifications of any members of the commission? Hearing none, we will go on down about this. I think we're down to the point where we're gonna ask for a staff report.
I think you're right. Thank
I
you,
think
Vice
it's wonderful.
Chair McNary and Commissioners. As Vice Chair McNary stated, this application is from the Dells Main Street, and they're trying to restore the East Second Street facade of the historic McHale's Grocery. So basically, the plan is to be compatible with the other portions of the historic building. This project will also include a tear-off of the non-historic components and exterior modifications and bring the building back to its near original state. The applicant is the Dells Main Street, as stated, and the property owner is Carrie Weed. I will let Jeremiah from the Main Street explain the grant that he did receive. He had reported in a previous meeting to you that the Main Street organization received a $25,000 grant that is going to be applied towards this property. This property's use is mixed use, or is commercial. Around the area, it's mixed use commercial. This property is classified as a historic non-contributing resource in the Dells Commercial Historic District. Conversations with building code or with the State Historic Preservation Office, there are certain requirements in order to bring a building back to from non-contributing to a contributing resource. We will probably take a look after the improvements are completed to see if it could be possibly reclassified as a contributing resource in that historic district. Notification was made in the local newspaper, as well as notification to property owners within 100 feet, as well as the State Historic Preservation Office. As of the date of this staff report, there were no comments received from any of those agencies. Staff is recommending approval with conditions based upon findings of fact. McHale's Grocery Store was built in approximately 1910, and style was Italianate with extensive alterations that were made to the north elevation. And as you all can see here, I'm not sure if there is a architectural style to the renovations that were made. Applicant is proposing to remove the facade that was added, which would include all of this. Construct new plaster columns, which will be replaced here and on this side, as well as faux window frames with plaster and new plaster and shaped corners. So basically similar to what this adjacent building has, where there's what appears could be a hole or a representation of a window, a transom window. I'm actually gonna jump to page 4 of 6 and jump right into the design guidelines as stated in our General Ordinance 96-1207 for establishing the design guidelines. In terms of the commercial front, as staff made a finding that the primary entrance will remain on the front of the building and will be slightly recessed as recommended, as well as following the existing building line. No information was provided in regards to the recessed area on the flooring, so that would be this area right here. I did not include it as a condition of approval, but that's something that the commission may want to have a conversation about, what type of material. Jeremiah may also be able to provide some additional information. Typically, historic commercial storefronts had a tile or some decorative blocks in those areas. In terms of the glass plate windows, those will remain. Hopefully not to have any issues with that when they're doing the tear off. There are no upper floors on the building, so they won't be any windows to replace there. In terms of window bulkheads, they're included in the architectural rendering, which are recommended and they are historically accurate. And unfortunately, a majority of the original facade has been removed, and it's actually unknown if there is any original transoms windows that exist. I'm talking to the previous building owner. She told me that there was stuff that was remaining in terms of historical materials, but she felt that it was probably deteriorated beyond saving in terms of a large pigeon population that may have left a little bit behind. And anyone who's ever dealt with pigeon excrement knows that it's pretty corrosive. In terms of the, sorry, just jumped in there. The applicant was able to locate 3 historic photos. So those photos, which were provided in your packet, show some of the original facade or modifications of that original facade over the years. This right here is the current facade. It's a street view. This was the facade that was, I think this one was early 1900s. Commissioner Davidson also provided you with a color photo of an old photo that gives you a little bit better representation of this photo right here. Materials that are planned to be used with this application include a glass wood plaster and appear to be compatible with the historic materials that exist on the building. And any type of building codes, any changes to the windows and or doors would require a building codes permit, as well as we encourage no painting of any brick. At this time, there is painting of the existing brick that is here, so I'm not sure if there's any plans for any painting. Jeremiah can answer that. So in conclusions, the proposed improvements to the facade will bring the building more in compliance with our historic design guidelines as well as fit better within our historic district. The restoration will complete the building and enhance the commercial street facade. These changes to the building will allow for continued use of this historic landmark. In all respects, this application meets the standards of the Secretary of Interior and the City of the Dalles General Ordinance 94-1194, as well as General Ordinance 96-1207, which is our design guidelines, with the following conditions. And I recommended 8 conditions of approval. Work to be completed, substantial conformance to the pictures and proposals as submitted, reviewed, and modified. Number 2, the use of reflective and smoked glass is prohibited. Number 3, wherever possible, natural color of the material shall be retained. 4, the modification to the facade shall not alter the essential form and integrity of the historic property. Utmost care shall be taken in construction with the new facade and the installation. Oh, actually, we don't have an awning on this one. I need to change that. Apologies. There's no awning, correct?
No awning.
No awning, okay. So I'll modify number 4 just to end that facade. Number 5, the applicants will need to submit plans for our building permit to the Oregon State Building Codes. Number 6, cleaning of the historic structure requires the applicants to use the gentlest means possible. No harsh chemical or sandblasting will be allowed. Number 7, painting will be required to follow historic guidelines and be approved by the City Community Development Department staff prior to work starting. And finally, number 8, the applicants are required to notify the Community Development Department of any alteration of the approved plans. Does the commission have any questions of staff?
The facade in this picture, I think matches with this modern picture pretty well, but pardon me for shuffling papers, but, the picture right there does not seem to match.
No.
It just looks like it's got a little area that's set back. But is it just a problem with the picture, or?
In terms of the rendering, so that it doesn't show that there's like an opening right here, I believe that is an open area and it would be set back, but I might have to have Jeremiah answer that question.
We are keeping, the recessed area would stay there, and that would remain,
Open.
that open right there. That's-
So it would potentially, it would match this open.
So that diagonal line to the left of the doorway and the man,
It's incorrect.
Yes,
Yeah, it should have
incorrect.
gone straight over.
If that's, according to this photo.
yes,
Have you
and,
seen,
and according to the modern photo that's
Yeah.
right there.
because it looks like when you first, to me, it looks like, is that angled there in the modern photo?
And it might be,
Kind of looks like it
it
is.
might actually be angled in terms of just like the entryway where you would traditionally have tile or something. It does look like it's angled, and maybe Byron, so I'm talking like here,
Yeah.
that this
On
is
that.
angled here,
On the east side, yeah,
Yeah.
right there.
and so, but this is open here, so
Because this historic picture very definitely has a setback.
like a walkway in there,
Yeah,
right?
definitely a walkway between the corner post and the building.
Yeah.
So
Right,
I guess-
It's hard to see on that
Yeah.
sketch is all we're getting at.
I think you're right, not sure if that's
Hard to see
open.
that there was even a window in this historic photo.
Well, there, yeah, it may have been a
Yeah.
partial thing.
Yeah,
Right, so that'd be open.
That's when,
Yeah.
Looks
Open,
like a
yeah.
paper
So-
box sitting there in the
So
corner.
Sandy, that will remain open, so that pillar will stand alone,
Okay.
and it'll
very good.
probably be the joy of many children in this community running around it, I'm sure. It may not be as depressed as what is shown here, because I think the building is built out a little further than what it shows on, or at least that looks at least 5 feet, if not wider. It's kind of hard to tell, actually. But it does have a pretty depressed.
Do we have a
interior.
modern picture of the east side of the
Yep.
building in here?
No, okay, yeah, hang on just a second.
Not really,
Go back.
So this is angled here, so there's the existing pole that's on the corner. This here, it's kind of hard to see, but right over, kind of have that post there, you can't see it as well. There's-
So I drove by today, I should have gone out and measured, but it just looks like this picture sets back further than the
I think you're
modern.
right, it does
Yeah.
appear that it sets back.
Yeah.
The one that Dennis provided, yes, I think it,
If we look at this photo, it definitely looks like it's set back. They're proposing to build a new column that's closer to what the original
Original.
size was, rather
Correct.
than just a
correct.
pole.
Right. Oh gosh, Dennis, don't you like that one?
Oh, I like that. It's kind of like for pole dance.
yeah, I don't know.
little large, little large.
Well, I don't follow up.
Uh,
Okay.
Any
more
questions,
for me?
commission members have any questions of staff?
Well, and this, there are aluminum frames around all of those windows and the door. Is that gonna stay the same?
So at this time, that is what the plan is. I mean, we can talk about, you know, the potential for a phase two of this project to encourage them to have a wood framed window, but at this time, they plan to leave those. Their concentration is more so on removing this addition from
You know,
a time period. that-
Traditionally, they would have been wood.
Correct, correct.
So could something be done to make it look less industrial?
Aluminum? I'm not sure if there are any stains that are out there, because it's, I mean, it's aluminum framed. I doubt it, and you wouldn't wanna paint the aluminum frame. You can encourage them to choose colors that would make that not pop out as much. I don't think so, Sandy. I'd be surprised.
What will happen under the window?
So at this time, they really don't have anything other than, I think they'll be doing a little bit of the facade, so a little bit of plaster repair that'll be underneath here. And then all of the other work's gonna be predominantly up in this area. So just cleaning this area up, painting the existing walls, as well as, you know, providing the ends and the brick bases on each side. So at this time, nothing is planned for those windows or those doors.
So it looks like at this point, we're really looking at the upper facade. right
Correct.
now, and
Correct,
Coming back to what was closer to the original.
correct.
Right,
And we would encourage another one to
Come
do
back.
something with that, with the aluminum windows, I guess, but
Yeah.
that's, you know,
And-
getting that facade off at the top is.
And the building owner may want to, I have a feeling that those aluminum windows are single pane, and maybe
Probably.
something that should be looking at upgrading those and giving a little more weatherization to those.
no, I'm not,
Well, if I may ask, I don't know just where we are in our public hearing. Are we asking for our opponents to come
So
up
if
forward?
you're ready, sure.
If we've asked our staff enough, if you got something you wanna tell us about how favorable this project is?
Talk a little bit about it. So, good afternoon. I'm Jeremiah Paulson, 1315 Pentland Street. You know, one of the things that the Dallas Main Street's focused on is we did a business retention and expansion survey back in 2016, and we asked property and business owners, you know, what are your top priorities downtown? And the number one priority that they mentioned were physical improvements to the downtown. They wanted to see downtown be a little prettier. And this property in particular is a property that Main Street has been looking at for before my time, even with when Matthew Cleaves was executive director. Trying to revitalize this facade back to a more historic nature has always been something that we've talked about. But of course, recently we acquired a grant to help with the project from the State Historic Preservation Office. It's their Diamonds in the Rough grant, and that was for a total of $20,000. And we're just really excited about this one. We think it's a great project for the downtown to really beautify that corner, especially since right across from the street was the IWF building. And back when Matthew Cleaves was executive director, he also received a grant from the State Historic Preservation Office to restore some of the original plaster, or marble, excuse me, on the bottom of that building. So, two projects right across from each other. I think that would be a really great win for the downtown.
Any commissioners
is
have
there,
questions?
are there any plans for tiling the surface in that setback? Or what is the plan for that, or is there one?
Well, there's no plans to tile as of right now, is my understanding. You know, like we were talking about, the top portion is really our main focus right now for the recessed entryway. You know, I think we said that we were going to paint the existing walls. I do believe, I think the plan is to remove the tile, that tile that's on there, and then paint the walls.
Down below the windows.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, looking at the photo of the floor,
course, when they get done putting that pillar back in there, what else can they do besides reconstruct that whole area? I can't, myself, I can't figure out how you could just rebuild that pillar and leave that slopey floor, which is probably ADA approved.
Yeah, currently, currently there's no talked about plan for that floor portion, right there below the doorway. My guess is that's something will have to happen, but right now, there's no definite plan in place for that portion.
And I'm not sure if any of you have been inside of that cosmetology building. I have a hard time believing Carrie would not do something tasteful. She's spent quite a bit of time in terms of design and cleaning that place up. I mean, it's quite interesting and fun to go in there and take a look, see what she's done.
Yeah, she used a lot of the original brick that was on the interior walls. It looks great. The floors are all hardwood, and it's a lot of the wood that she repurposed from that was already in there. And so really awesome design choices, and we're really excited to have the exterior of the building, match her vision for the inside.
I've been afraid to go in, afraid they'd give me a permanent.
Okay.
Or temporary.
No. Is there anyone that wants to ask any more questions, and then I'll set tight, because you're not supposed to go anywhere yet. Do we have any opponents in the audience here that would like to testify against this rehabilitation of this building? If I hear none, I'm gonna say that we don't. Do we have someone that wants to testify about how good it is gonna make? We'd like to have someone else talk other than just the applicant. Hearing none, we're back to you. Tell us again how wonderful you are.
I think we're good. Are you guys, I mean,
That's all I have. Yeah.
Jeremiah, the grant you got was 20,000?
20,000, correct.
Yeah, how well is that gonna accomplish what you wanna do, or do you know yet?
My understanding is that it's gonna cover just under half of the project. Because the grant is a one-for-one match with the property owner. And so it's, it covers just under half the project cost.
Oh, okay. So there isn't any extra money to do something with the lower part?
Unfortunately,
This time.
not at this time.
Yeah.
But with a bucket of paint, some cosmetic things can be done.
After all the work they've done interior, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
If the commission members have any more questions to ask of the applicant, well then, I get to gabble a little bit. We'll close the public part of the hearing, and we will, that's good, confer amongst each other and come up with a motion to approve this application, or something else.
I don't have anything further. I think it's a great project. That's a very visible corner as you drive down Second Street. And that will be,
Yes.
just taking it off.
Yeah.
Would improve.
I have no arguments with that either, but I need a formal application, like a motion, that we approve or if we don't approve.
Make a motion that we approve HLC number 162-18.
I will second that.
Is there any further discussion? Then I will call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is passed unanimously. And I don't know if it'd be a good time or not to go get a resolution done.
I'll have to correct it to remove the part about the awning.
So maybe we can't do the resolution.
yeah, no, do it.
Yeah, we can? Well, I'd say that maybe it isn't on the, yes, it is, right there. We got a resolution that we need a motion, we passed that, by the way, with the, recommendations of, what was it, 7 or 8?
8.
So now we're ready for, pass the resolution.
I move that we pass the resolution, historic landmarks resolution number 152-18, adopting the Dallas Historic Landmarks Commission application number 162-18 of the Dallas Main Street, with the modification to condition number 4 to exclude the last part of the sentence and the installation of the awning.
I second.
I don't believe we have to discuss this. This is a motion that has been made, so we pass it. All in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
And I got an aye in there. Anyone opposed, say nay. The resolution has been passed. Thank you very much for the application.
Okay.
They have a time frame when they might get started?
We're looking here very shortly, so to at least start the demolition of the turn facade, so.
Fun to watch,
Yes.
Yes.
Fun to see. See what's underneath that.
Yes.
besides,
Yeah.
Besides the-
yeah, the pigeons.
All right, going on to the next thing is the staff and the commission comments. Does
Okay.
staff want to open it? You got
I
something you
do,
want to tell
I
us?
have a couple things for you. The first thing being, we have a date set for our plaster restoration workshop. It will be October, it will be, oh my gosh. Oh, I had it written down and I forgot to bring that up here. Oh my gosh. Oh geez. It will be October 27th and 28th. It will be at, I should say, it was planned to be at the historic Burbring House, which Victor Johnson owns, and he has so wonderfully offered to host. Doug Leash from one of your fellow commissioners has also had offered up the St. Peter's Landmark. So what may end up happening is when Lucian comes to town for that, we may have extra time to get over and do some very small repairs on the historic Catholic Church.
The elk and
Oh, what's it right? Okay, well, dang it. I wonder who you're gonna be elk hunting with. So, the thing about the class is that we do actually have to have 10 people signed up for the class. I have to sit down with the finance director and go over the numbers for the grant that I've received to see where we're at in terms of numbers in order to get a value that I need to charge for the class. I'm hoping to not have to charge like we did last time, but I need to run those numbers and make sure. So I'm going to be getting a flyer out soon, hopefully by Friday, that will detail what is involved in the class, as well as a fee if there is one, as well as the need for 10 people or 10 participants. We do have one, which is Victor, but other than that, I do have to have 10 participants. Lucian, the instructor, stated that he has 1 to 2 students that are currently at community college that may also be interested in joining him. So if you know anybody, I'll get those flyers to you via email. Let me know, send people my way. I'm sorry, Doug. Love to have you there. So
I would
anyway,
love to be there.
it's gonna be 2 days from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. It's pretty detailed, so I'm actually kind of excited to see if we have anyone interested in the community. We have not approved the construction contractor board credits, but we could potentially look at if a contractor is needing credits for continuing education, that they could get upwards of 12 credits. What we found is the people that typically need that type of credit are new contractors, which would be great to have some new contractors in the historic restoration. We'll just kind of see how it plays out, and if we do have that interest, then we'll work with CCB and make sure that we make that available. So other than that, I'm working away on that grant as well as just starting some discussions with a local marketing crew to talk about the historic walking tour, which Sandy and I will be hopefully talking, well, I'll be looking at Sandy's beautifully prepared map soon. I did meet with Lisa Farcarson, explained to her about what, from the chamber, explained to her what we were doing with our grant as well as how we can incorporate that in with the walking tour map, which is going to be distributed by the chamber. So we have a couple of great ideas and thoughts about sharing information. So Did you, I know I was supposed to meet with her, but did you want to also be involved in a meeting
Yes.
with Lisa? Okay, so we need to do that.
I will referee.
Okay, oh, you're gonna reference. So the last thing that I want to share with you, we do have a new planner in our office, Mr. Josh Chandler, and he's joined us today. I know you were hoping it was just somebody that came to watch your meeting. So Josh is working on a couple projects related. He's going to be helping me with the grants as well as, we've got him very busy. I'm feeling a little bit of relief now that he and Riley have been there. And have Josh come up and explain what he's doing with your historic districts and how it, what he's doing on the map. So come on up. So hopefully we didn't scare him.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Josh Chandler, Planning Department. As Don said, I've been slowly kind of chipping away at some of the old GIS files that we have, which will allow us to create some more accurate mapping of the city. And I'm also updating some of the inventory of, SHPO has about 320 different individual properties or landmarks in the area that they've designated with their, their 5 different designations there. So I'm going through GIS and actually labeling each property with what it is and also a year. So we should be able to, it'd be kind of fun for me to put together a map showing kind of how the Dalles was created by the year, just showing lot by lot. But also, updating both historic districts, getting some lines, the original lines done on those were kind of loosely drawn on GIS, so being able to more accurately pinpoint where they're going, which will help with this grant, with this walking tour, as well as pretty much just going through the entire inventory that we have, pretty old. I think, I don't know when the last time that inventory was,
94, 96.
yeah, so there's obviously been some, structures taken off of the inventory as well as some that have been demolished, so essentially just cleaning everything up right now. I came from recently working with the city of Jacksonville down in Southern Oregon, one of the larger national landmark districts on the West Coast, at least, one of the older ones in the country. I think it was established in 1966, and it was established at a time when Jacksonville kind of became a ghost town because the county seat had switched over to Medford. 5 miles away, so it really preserved the buildings in Jacksonville, so that's what's really allowed it to be really a walking museum, and it really sparked again my interest in historic preservation. I have a background in construction and mostly glass, working with glass, art glass, commercial glass, and I was able to move into this position at Jacksonville, and then now took this position up here within the Dalles. Very excited to be here, work with this, the historic landmarks that we have here in Jacksonville. I was able to kind of go through and do the same thing, updated their whole entire landmark database that they have, and for a town that's just about 3,000 people, they have probably 2 or 3 times the amount of landmarks that we have here. So it was quite fun. I enjoy it, and I'm excited to help out best I can. Thank you.
I have a comment for you, Josh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do research at the Columbia, at the Discovery Center, and we did a project for the people for Historic Jacksonville, Inc., and they were planning to open the Beekman Bank, which I understand has been done.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a doctor who was, his facility was in the original Beekman building. And so we have learned a lot about Jacksonville in the last few months. And so, you know, feel free to share information because some of us have been there.
Okay, yeah.
And if you're interested in in the Dr. Brooks project, let me know and I'll share that with you too.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Was that the one that you talked in detail with us about a few
Uh-huh.
months ago? Okay,
Yeah,
wow, cool.
yeah.
Little did
What
we
a small
know.
world.
Wow, yeah. Great, okay. Do you have any more questions of staff?
No, I'd say welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll look for great things. You have a cohort sitting there beside you that I maintains overwork, so maybe she can lose a little of her workload to you.
Let's hope.
Yeah, well, and he and Riley both have been give me, and unfortunately, I have a hard time letting go, but I'm doing it, so.
Dawn can also share with you the additions to the historic landmarks materials that are in the library at the Discovery Center. You've,
Yeah, I need to come out there, no. I
You
need to
do?
go out there and look at
yeah, and if you wanna send somebody to sort and organize, I'd love it.
I don't know if I have staff for that. Maybe.
In your spare
Yeah.
time.
I might get some, so, anyway. So great addition, I'm actually, that was one of the things, was on Josh's application, and that was the first thing I honed in on, I'm like, wow, there's somebody in here that has some historic background and interest in historic preservation, so. Good addition to our office. Bob, in terms of the historic cemetery, we did get the, oh my gosh, just bark. They did get the bark laid. I'm not sure if anybody's been up there to see anything, but.
I haven't been up there, no, I can see from the highway, the street, that we still have a problem of getting stage 2. When people pick up things, it still lays there. It might be moved from one location to another, but our brush pile is still there. It just moved to a little
Oh,
less
okay.
conspicuous. And I don't know, I don't understand the city government in the sense of public works, why they can't send a truck up there and just clean it up and go on about their, it's city property and all that sort of, I don't know, but I don't need to know.
Okay, you and I can talk about that some other time, which is, you have certain departments and that are responsible for certain things. So I will say that Terry, our maintenance guy, is back down to 1. The gentleman that worked for us for a little while, we were sad to see him go, but he did get offered a job in Hood River, and that's where he lives, so hopefully we'll be hiring somebody that will be able to help Terry and help us keep that cemetery going. One other thing, I do want to let you know that Carolyn Wood was in the office the other day talking about a new mural that Blaine has been painting. It's for the Travel Oregon. It's on the old Leland property building, and I can't remember what the historic name was.
Well, we always call it the Moody Building.
The Moody Building. So Carolyn came in, of course, as if any of you have seen, they're painting on the brick there, and that's the first thing that I noticed. I'm like, oh, it's a historic building, and then I pulled our inventory, and unfortunately, it is not a historic building, or at least not inventoried. So Carolyn came in with the same questions. I'm like, it's not inventoried. So they're painting a mural for Travel Oregon on that building. Same artist that's following some Travel Oregon video footage that will be similar, not as abstract as what the mural is that's facing the freeway. I don't know.
What do we call that one face?
I don't know. I
Better
love
put
it.
a name on
I
it.
don't know. It's the
That
hub.
great
The
big
hub.
long one.
Yeah. I don't know. I absolutely loved it.
I
So
do too.
it's-
You know, I want to caution you, I'm very old, but to say that this building is not historic, so it is not in the historic district, it isn't always gonna be that way.
Right.
And that paint is gonna come back to haunt a group sitting behind it, rostrum, 15, 20 years from now. So I don't know how you answer it, there is no answer to it, but you and I both know that something that was historic 50 years ago and it wasn't triggered right isn't any better today.
Correct. And that's kind of what Carolyn had talked about too when she came in, is that, you know, rather than painting directly onto the brick, painting it on a flat like a plaque or wood or something that could be removed, that it was just like pumped or pushed up against the building, so that you weren't actually, I mean, and anybody who knows brick, you're not supposed to paint brick. And that's part of your design guidelines, is don't paint the brick. If it's been painted, you can paint it, but don't paint it, because brick needs to breathe. And that's part of a building, is getting it to breathe.
I got the same question at home.
Did you? I'm sure.
I did.
You know, Carolyn is very diligent. She was in.
No, I shouldn't say question, comment.
Comments.
One question.
Concern.
How come you're doing that to that historic building?
Isn't that cool? I mean, and
We looked it up in the book. and
I
we couldn't
know.
find it.
That's what, I even pulled the book out again to look at Carolyn.
Note right here, building across from the iron.
Oh, good. Well, I, when Carolyn came in, I thought, oh my gosh, I missed it. And I had actually looked, and so that we pulled the books out together and looked, and it was not there.
But that's a building has, it says Moody Warehouse.
It's got
On
some
it.
arch.
Marked on that old door.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe that's something that we can look at too. Obviously now it's a little late on that one, but, we have talked over the years about doing an expansion of our commercial historic district. And now that we have staff that's obviously going to be able to help me, may also be looking at doing that expansion of that district.
You never learn, do you? You get one person, then you take on the job for 5.
I know. Josh is a pretty good worker, so I just don't want to scare him off. But I think that would be something that we could definitely look at, because I do know, I don't know if the continuation of that historic district, which Sally Donovan had told us in the past, maybe we don't want to do it as a continuation, maybe we want to just do it as the mill district, so that it's more industrial in nature. Some of those buildings down there, obviously Sunshine Mill, the old train depot, those are more of an industrial type use. So she kind of pushed towards maybe just doing a separate district, but that may be something we can take a look at once Josh gets the inventory done. We start pushing the ideas of expansion and increasing our inventories and getting city council support to do so and get some additional funds. That might be a good idea.
Maybe
And-
a separate one might be more
Right.
saleable
Right, and
than
true.
expansions,
Correct.
depending on what we're.
Right, what we're doing, right, and how many we can get to sign on it.
Right.
if you look at the early Sanborn maps, and I think the earliest one we have is 1883, so it's not really early. But it's amazing, all of the facilities that were on the east end of Second Street. Everything from a wool scouring plant to the things that we're familiar with now, and my mind just went old.
We had stables,
But
slaughterhouses, I mean.
the
it was-
thing is, and Carolyn?
Well, I was gonna say, the Woolsey building is where there was a hides shop that somebody by the name of Foreman, Foreman, I can remember that name being there, but Sam Woolsey told me that that's what it was at one point. He also told me that that was supposed to have been the first cherry grower, I don't know,
Cooperative or-
sale yard or something, building, that the early farmers built that building. Now, I might have the sequence wrong, but I can remember when it said Foreman up there, because our name was Foreman, but it was spelt differently. And I remember bringing this up to my mother, I mean, this is back in the 40s, when we drove down the street. And of course, later, Mr. Woolsey bought it, and it was full of tires, when he had the Woolsey's Tire Store right there across from which used to be Alec Marshall's grocery store, which was the biggest store that I could remember in those days, which was across,
The Downies.
Downey's, well, yeah, Downey's furniture store. Well, across from that was Woolsey's Tire Shop. And then, I was at the same block, but anyway, the big gray building that's back there behind the vacant lot was the, Woolsey owns that. And had owned it for many years,
I
but
think
it,
they might still own it, actually.
yes, I think Sam, yeah, or whichever, some of them do, yes. But it had, in fact, someplace I wrote down these notes, what he said to me about the sequence of who owned what, but Sam could give us sort of at least a sketch of that.
And also Judge Wilson's walking tours in the 1930s, and there are a lot of resources out there for early time period on the east end of town. What I was going to say is that Jeremiah and Main Street, with the collages that we did with the historic buildings, we stuck with buildings that are still in existence. But we might put together some sort of a project about what the East End used to look like. And, because there are pictures,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and I think I've said this to you all, is my hope, and I did talk with Lisa Chamber about this as well as Main Street. My hope with this walking tour is that it morphs into something far more, in terms of you have just the commercial, or you have the historic component, but then you can also add the commercial component, which would be
Right.
very tangible for Main Street to take on, and or Chamber or both,
Right.
because you could then bring in that commercial component and, you know,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
the trade
And,
going through it.
Yeah. And for the edification of the board here, the grant, the walking tour grant, was actually tailored by Dave, the new person at the chamber, but it was sent in under the original Wasco County Courthouse name. We are a 501c3, they are a 501c7 or 8, I don't remember which. And so, and then, of course, we're using Jeremiah's materials that we did when we created the Main Street walking tour for their state conference. So there are a lot of different groups involved in that. And we sent a preliminary mock-up of the actual walking tour in with the grant application, and that just went in like about 10 days ago, I think. And but with your addition to an online component, then you can add things.
Oh, yeah.
You can add things that we don't have on the actual.
Well, and we might have a
That
floozy
piece
walk,
of paper kept getting bigger and bigger, and what,
so we might have a floozy walk.
a floozy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that seems to be what the kids are interested in, that, or what were the saloons, obviously what was above the saloons.
Yeah,
And then a ghost walk too. I've had somebody
yeah.
say, if you wanna get the kids drawn in, you need to draw those.
Well,
components of
our first priority with the walking tour, based on the brochure, the, not rack card, but a fold-out brochure, is that it's self-guided, because we have, as all of you know, we have a terrible time getting volunteers for a lot of other things that we are already doing. So folding a volunteer component into what we're doing with the walking tour is not real practical for us.
Completely, I agree. Okay, so that's all I have.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Was it you that was explaining to us that the Gray Line people were here, but they are not here, or what is?
Oh, Dawn, are you in the loop with the Gray Line tour?
Move us.
Okay.
No, I've
okay.
seen the Facebook posts, but I haven't
Okay,
really
so
followed.
the original courthouse is on that tour. So at this point, end of this season, they have been coming up here on Saturdays, and the people who have come have gone out to the dam and haven't done much of anything in town. So I was at the Discovery Center, and I got a phone call from the head of this, from Gray Line's side of it. And the Gray Line out of Portland and the Dallas Chamber and the Corps of Engineers are financing this. So I got a call from this guy at the library at the Discovery Center, and he wanted to know where the Dallas Hotel used to be. And that's all he wanted to know. And so I asked him who he was. I didn't answer his question, but I asked him who he was, and while I had the head of Gray Line buttonholed on the other end of the telephone, I shared some information with him and also got the information from him that if this works next year, they're gonna do Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
But the downside of that is that they have one bus, holds about 35 people, and that, the bus links with, the bus that comes to Hood River. It's all part of that whole system that goes to Multnomah Falls and Cascade Locks. And so the bus that comes from Hood River to the Dalles comes one time and then it loops during the day. So there, the potential is only 35 people total
Per day.
per day.
Per day.
Yeah. And so it's, you know, it's still exciting, but it's not what we first got excited about. I mean, it's much smaller than that. But he's hoping for a Saturday and Sunday next season, so, and I don't know.
10 or 1,000% increase, I'm not sure, I never went.
Yeah, and so Chris Bolton, our docent at the courthouse, has kind of kept me up on when he sees the bus and consistently that there are no people on it.
Oh, no.
So anyway, it hasn't worked out well for anybody so far, but it's just brand new.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the word out.
We had 2 people off of it at the museum
Oh, did you?
last Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah, and immediately after that, the bus broke down.
Oh, no.
oh.
Did you have to put them up for the night?
I wasn't there. They ended up getting something, I'm not sure how.
Oh, no.
But there was 2 ladies.
Yeah. So I have a quick courthouse report. We have, I sent you the mock-up that our actual signboard in the front of the building is up and it's, has a wooden frame around it and a glass front and blocks. And, it looks like it's always been on the building. Have you driven by?
I have not seen it yet.
Yeah, it looks good. And then we had, Chris restored a bench, cast iron ends and the oak slats like you see here and there around town. And that's sitting on the front porch. So we've got a better place for people to sit and wait for the bus.
Nice.
And we're open through the end of September, except when the American Empress comes, and then we are open one day a week until sometime in November, depending on weather,
Right. Let's see what this year brings.
just like last year.
Right.
Are you, found, you said what you wanted to say?
Yes, I'm finished, Bob.
Dennis, do you have anything that,
No, I don't have anything.
oh,
Since we're reporting, I was just gonna say I'm on the on the Wasco County Historical Society board now. And, this is just remembering off the top of my head. Last year, we were open every Sunday from, I think it was like 11 to 4, 1 to 4, anyway, I forget. But, we had nobody ever came to visit, and we had a docent person sitting there every Sunday afternoon. Maybe it was Saturday, anyway. So this year, we decided to do, but last year, we had like, once a month, we had a historic presentation. We would get like 15, 20 people just for those events. So this year, we decided to do many more of those presentations and not be open on a regular basis, but and it turned out, I think there were like 6 or 8 presentations. We had excellent turnouts, to the point that we were really squeezing everybody in that wanted to do, and we did most of them inside. We do have air conditioning in there because sometime, well, and we moved them to 11 o'clock on Saturday mornings instead of in the afternoon before it got so hot. So anyway, we've had huge success with all those presentations. Some of them we did in other locations. One was at the Granada. I think one was down at the Chinese building that Eric made a presentation on the Chinese no, actually he was talking about the Getchell building, but he also talked about the Chinese building. But anyway, those presentations were very, very successful. Not quite as big as the ones in February, but at the original courthouse, but very, very well attended.
I guess I do have one other thing I should bring up. Since our representative isn't here from the Fort Dallas Museum, we have been continuing with the Empress on their hop-on, hop-off. On the Mondays when either the Queen or the Pride are in, they are doing hop-on, hop-off now. So they're coming every half hour, so we picked up another 50 to 60 people each
Wow.
week.
Wow.
And so that's really
That's
made a
huge.
difference, and they just started 2 weeks ago. Finally.
Wow.
It only took, like Mary said, it's only taken 7 years. to
Yeah.
do it. But they are coming.
Nice.
Jeremiah, do you have anything to add on that topic?
The cruise ships?
What Dennis just said?
I'm sorry, I zoned out. I apologize. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not even gonna pretend. I was thinking, my mind was elsewhere.
He was tearing the facade. No, we
That's one of
have
those
that.
moments in class like that.
The Monday when the Queen and the Pride are in, they are doing hop-on, hop-off now. And they're doing a 3-stop.
The Queen and the Pride,
Yeah, they are.
I do believe so, yeah.
Yeah, they are. And so, and they're doing Discovery Center, they're doing Fort Dallas Museum, and then they're doing one downtown.
Yeah.
So we are getting people
Nice.
back into that.
And Bunny said to me earlier today that they had worked a long time to make this happen, and that they aren't, they want to give it this year to settle in, and then maybe some of the rest of us can be on their route also.
Nice.
So,
Awesome. Great.
but she's not going to push that
Oh,
right
okay,
now.
well, yeah. Baby steps, baby steps.
They're on to the short end of their season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How exciting though. That's great.
And if you're all at all interested, tomorrow, go down and look at the river, because we have 4 ships in.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
The Empress is at the main dock. The Legacy is here, and 2 of the National Geographic ships are also.
So they're
They
gonna be
may
down in the port then?
They're down at the port, and they may be shuffling their people in with their Zodiacs.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not sure.
Wow.
Well,
Cool.
they've done it before when they've had 2 down there, and one of them goes out and anchors. And so you may have 2 ships anchored out in the river,
On the river.
along with
Nice.
both
Wow.
docks full. So it'd be an interesting photo op if it works out that
Yeah,
way.
I'm sure Scott McMullen will be down there to take some
Yeah,
photos, so.
you should.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Sounds like
I think I'm done.
sounds like I picked a good day to meet a couple coming off of the turbo.
Yeah, it could be.
Doug, you got anything that happened in the, how's your historic landmark over here coming? Now, I know it isn't yours anymore, but I know you've never divorced it either, so.
No, just
You had any good
more
summer?
docents, of course, but.
Yeah, if you have any extras, let us know.
No, we're doubling and tripling up sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Not good.
I have nothing to report on the cemetery. I haven't even walked up there to see the bark dust. I was really concerned if we shouldn't have tried to barricade it with a yellow tape during that extreme fire danger. But maybe we've got through that point now. It would just be a shame to see it burn and give the neighbors something to complain about. So, other than that, I have nothing more. And if anyone would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Okay, I'm just gonna add one other thing, wait,
I
next
second
week's,
the
no,
motion.
Now you ruined the motion.
sorry, next week's meeting is actually canceled, which is our regularly scheduled, because we did do a special meeting today. Thank you for that, and then our next meeting will actually be October 24th, and at this time I do not have anything. So if we end up not having anything, we'll probably cancel the meeting, but we'll let you guys know pretty quick. Okay, now, there we go, we'll go back to the motion.
I think we've had a motion that's been seconded, so all in favor say aye and leave.
Thank you, everybody.
I didn't even gavel us away.
You better gavel.